Call the meeting to order. Join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gonna take the agenda out of order while Bob and Joe are here. Facilities Committee just met, and it was the recommendation of the Facilities Committee to recommend to the, oh, Bob, did you have an extra copy for Norma? You got that, Norma?
Just the one?
A recommendation to put out to bid for the windows of sections A, B with a two-part RFP, part A being sections A and B, and part B being the front section of section E. There. Anybody wanna?
So that'd be windows, that would
I make
Make a motion?
I make a motion to approve that recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It was a recommendation of the Facilities Committee to contact Josh Edwards to see if he would be able to do the job and if he's insured and be able to do the job, and if not, that we would accept the bid of Dale Colbath for the tree removal for $6,000. Go ahead, Bob.
Josh is doing it for the wood.
Right.
No cost.
Right. So, see if he's got the insurance and able to do the back part of it.
Both sides of the building.
Both sides. But I don't know if he's aware of the back piece.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And I think that's it for you guys, eh?
But the Gary Road project.
Yeah.
Oh. The parking lot.
Is that the Gary Road project? Okay. I thought we were talking about the water line.
The what?
The water line on Gary Road.
I don't know. And what would you like to, discuss about that, Mrs. Sayre?
Me?
Yes, didn't you say what about it?
Well, where we stand, I'm sure she did that.
Yeah, I wanted to know where we stood, if everything had been demolished and what the next steps were.
I believe everything has been, the trailer and the shed are no longer there.
Okay, so we're waiting on the demolition, and then are we prepared to put the RFP out to have the rest of the work done?
I don't think the rest of the work's gonna get done for $75,000.
That might not, but we have to, there are certain steps, I guess what I was asking the board, what's our next step? Where do we go from here? Let's get some form of a guideline in place so that,
Well, I believe our next step is the tree removal.
Right, that's.
which we just took care of.
Right. Until that gets done,
I would
we
think-
can't go any further right now.
No, right now, but we
But
could
shouldn't
probably
you
put
have the
out.
RFP out, so as soon as the trees are done, you're moving forward?
Good, Michael.
Yeah. So if we're moving forward with removing the trees, I guess I'm following along with what Ms. Sear is saying, is that at this point, we should decide on what's the next phase and put that out now to determine if we determine what we might need to ask for in the budget process when it comes to developing warrant articles to complete the project, so that we look at it in phases. So we're taking care of the first phase of the demolition and tree removal. Next phase, I would say, would be what, stump removal and grading, and then we look at paving. So we should look at putting together at least a phased proposal so we can put together the monies that we would need in order to follow through with completing the project.
I believe that what we had talked about when we did the warrant article is that we were hoping that the $75,000 would cover the demolition, the tree and stump removal, and getting it ready for usage for the year, and then next summer moving forward with the paving, the lighting, the landscaping.
That's what we're hoping.
All right, so
I just wanted to
basically,
make sure that we were all on the same page, and so I guess I would think that I would be ready to put the RFP out, so as soon as the trees are done, you have someone in here stumping, getting that done so that it can be prepared before
So
school.
Stump removal.
Stump removal and
Well,
grading.
I think that would be part of the grading.
Definitely part of the grading. Once,
Do it all at once.
once you start cutting into the,
But do we have the plans in place to get that done? It's like, we went to a standstill last spring, or this past spring. It's kind of like we hit a roadblock and we didn't move on from there. So are there plans that we need to have purchased and done?
We already got the plans from Harriman.
I understand that, but they weren't to scale.
Those aren't the specs.
Those aren't the specs. That's an idea of what they thought would be best. And am I right on that, Bob?
Yes, that's correct.
So we still have to move,
It's a concept.
I mean, if we're going forward, we still have to get those plans done up. If not, no one bidding on the RFP is gonna know what we want. They're not gonna know grades, they're not gonna know, so we've got steps that we should be taking care of that we need to move forward with at this point in time.
Which,
a contractor coming in to bring that to subgrade prior to culverts and conduit for your utilities and stuff like that. A contractor that's competent would come in and see what's existing for grades now with your paving, which wouldn't be changing, and bring your subgrade to below that, so that when you when you're completing the project and paving and everything, you're at a finished grade.
I have to say that I was under the assumption that when we did the grading, that all the conduit and all the piping was gonna be put in place and brought up and tapped at the top in anticipation for the next step, that we only wanted to dig it up once. And if I'm wrong, but that's what my belief in looking past my notes
I
was,
don't think that's right,
you don't.
because we said we wanted to have it in use for
Parking.
the coming year, right?
Right.
So with-
A roughed parking lot without pavement.
Right, but not the conduit sticking up out of the ground and stuff like that. Capped
Yeah,
off.
no.
I would just be like, why are you gonna do all that grading and then dig it back up again to put the conduit in? Why not do it once while you're down there? I thought that that's what we had really discussed.
Because, well, they're not really, I mean, what you're talking about is someone's probably like a bulldozer and pushing it down, taking all the stumps out, pushing it down this end, and then taking that material and dumping it out back. They're not really, I wouldn't really call it digging. It's more grading.
Well, why are we gonna grade it once and then grade it again?
It might be two different people that do that job anyway.
Right.
Sure, it's not the people taking the stumps out and leveling the lot off, it's not gonna be the person that's putting in conduit.
Maybe we can ask Bob what he thinks.
Am I correct, Bob? Did you hear what I said?
No, I didn't, please repeat
The
that.
person that would take out the stumps and maybe leveling off the lot for drivable or parking there for the upcoming year is not the same person that's gonna put in the conduit for the lighting and all that stuff.
Right, it would be, but you could have a prime contractor, because otherwise you're doing different pieces. Right.
Even looking at
What-
FR Carroll, I
What
don't
you were
know.
suggesting, and, or if
They
you-
did a great project, and they did all the piping and everything, and it's
Start to finish.
start to finish, they did it all.
I guess you could have it all done by one guy.
The other thing is if we start tearing stumps out and bringing grade down and clearing that lot, where do we sit with the town as far as code and permits and plan.
Especially for conduit, going how deep and,
Well, it's land conversion, right? You're just taking a
Well,
house
see-
lot and creating it into a parking lot.
That's what, those are questions that I have, because moving forward, we have to have all our ducks in a row. And at this point in time, I feel like, we don't have a really concise plan yet.
That's already been discussed about finding out what permits we need, whether we need permits, whether we don't, and everything else.
So have you done that, Bob? Have you found out what we need?
I've talked.
Oh, you did?
I've
Okay.
talked with Nate, and he was like, this is going back a ways now. When we first started with Harriman and got that first sketch, he would like to see a plan because of the water runoff.
He'd like to have it contained on the site, retention ponds and
that?
minimal runoff is what he's looking for.
And I don't know if that draft that we have right now is substantial for that permit.
I think it would be.
I think it would be too.
And if you
Would-
like,
would-
I will go check that out tomorrow morning.
I mean, you've got fixed elevations. Again, you've got the existing parking lot and the threshold of the building, and those are not gonna change. So everything that you are going to do for future parking and everything needs to be below threshold, so the water doesn't run, so, I mean, it's not difficult.
No. So,
One of the pieces we didn't have though is knowing the lot line, so we could understand what we could do there at that edge.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, when we were taking down the trees right now, because we're just leaving that whole line, which is something that would have to take later when we
I thought that
get it to the final grade.
didn't you go up and find the lot lines?
There was a survey done because of the land dispute. There's a survey. I think, actually, it was not recorded. Was it recorded? Didn't I bring that information to you, Joe? No. I went up to the Registry of Deeds, talked to Diana.
Yes.
Same information you got, I think. So the lot lines, although they weren't found, they've been surveyed. So there's a historical survey on the property.
I didn't receive a survey.
You didn't see a diagram?
No.
Well, I'll have to look, because I'm pretty sure I got a diagram where there was distances. There was a rectangular shape that was all brought into one lot because there was a piecemeal lot.
I remember seeing something like that at the town hall, I think.
Michael?
Just to go back, when we originally started talking about this, we were talking with Harriman, the way they had broken it out, it was into stages where they did the site analysis, which we had done, which provided us the map itself. Next would have been the civil engineering design, where they come in and provide the specs. But that also entailed, correct me if I'm wrong, the survey, getting the topographical survey in order to be able to do the civil engineering design.
I think they were talking about an extra $5,000 or $6,000 to
Yeah.
have a survey
I
done.
Correct.
actually said that I believe that any capable company coming into bid is gonna be able to do that without having to pay for it twice.
Okay. So these are the stages that we had discussed, so coming in and at least giving the survey and having that design. And then we talked about if it was broken out, it would be earthwork and gravel, broken out as pavements, stormwater and erosion control, light poles and wiring, lawns and landscaping.
Your stormwater and your conduits, your drainage and your conduits for your utilities can be done at the same time, because you're basically at your same elevations.
So moving forward, board, what's our next step?
I would really lean towards getting the design so we understand the direction that we're heading.
So that means you need to put an RFP out for the job, and you need to have people like FR Carroll, like the other paving companies around, come in, look at it, and do a design. Is that right?
I
What's
think
wrong
you're
with-
talking something, Bob, I think Bob's talking about basically having a surveyor come in,
We're
correct?
talking about having an engineer put a specification together. That would go out to bid, so you'd have specs. Because otherwise, Otherwise, if you're working at the company level, you're gonna have their opinions of how and what. And
So what he's talking about is that $6,000 piece that was gonna be step 2 with Harriman.
Why can't we give them
The conceptual,
the conceptual that Harriman said and say, this is what we want done? And then they can engineer it individually. Like, isn't that the way it works? I mean, I always,
in the
I don't want to
rural
offend
areas.
anybody, but sometimes the engineering piece is an added piece that's unnecessary if you get the right contractor. It's like having an engineer do your blueprints for your house and then having a contractor say, well, geez, you didn't have to spend that $3,500. I could have done that for you. It's part of my job.
Or an architect saying, how about transcript? More money.
That's right.
so
So,
they're gonna come back with what, to us, then what they would recommend for lighting. Just to use one thing as example, so if you got 3 bids, you'd have 3 different concepts.
You might, but if it's all based on the
Right.
concept that we've already approved, that we already have that one approved concept that we all voted on, if we give them that and say, this is what we want, I mean, there's light posts, there's everything already in that conceptual.
yeah, there's, for conduit and stuff like that, there's places you need Schedule 80, there's places Schedule 40 is
So if the
perfectly
town's
good.
worried about runoff and stuff, where's the drawing gonna come from with grades that they're gonna say, that they're gonna approve and say, yeah, go ahead?
I'm hoping that the contractors coming in are gonna be able to do that, and if those contractors then tell us that we need to hire,
Your conceptual has your retention ponds on it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The conceptual has culvert heads, I believe, on it. And it has X spots for where the utility poles were proposed to be set, the light poles. So you put your elevations on those things, you 100 feet later, you're down 8 inches or whatever. It's, again, you have fixed elevations that are already taking and sending water.
I get all that, and I understand that we're all capable of doing that. But to have that diagram that says, with that stamp that says, yeah, you guys are good to go. I mean, who's gonna take responsibility for that? I'm not. I'm not gonna be out there and say, hey, yeah, well, I think you guys are 3 inches above grade. Well, here's your print.
And here's your laser, and there's your stick, and you set your beep, 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 and you walk over there, beep, 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 beep.
I understand.
So, I
Been there,
mean,
done that. But
so your contractor coming in, if they, I mean,
you have to bond it.
so, I mean, I don't think the money's there really for the culverts and the conduit and all that stuff with $75,000.
so
No, but we're looking at moving forward.
is our building team, facilities team, administration telling us that you want us to go out and get an architectural design?
My opinion, I would prefer to have that engineering design, because then it gives you specifically what we're looking for. And then you can hand that to anybody and they're getting the same design and they can bid on that same design. So we're getting a bid based on not other people's opinions, but on what we would like to see happen.
Can the board get copies of the conceptual drawing?
I think we have
Yeah,
them
you
already.
Well,
you
have
approved
Now,
copies of
is
it.
this something that you
That's
have to
good.
go back to Harriman for, or can you go to Land Tech? Can you go to Brian? Can you go to
You
someone
can go to
local?
Staples
And
and have them copied.
No, the engineering design.
the
should be
engineering
fine, too.
design, I mean, we don't necessarily have to pull from Harriman. I mean, they did very good by us and we paid
Oh, yeah,
them
no.
for what they did. But maybe there's someone local that could do it, and
Can we put that out to an RFP?
You would have
I
to.
Yeah.
think we would have to. So
Put
maybe
that out
that's the
and-
next step is RFP for the civil engineering design.
Can we get copies of the conceptual drawings for the school board members? So that, we can actually look and see, there's, I'm sure the people that set up that conceptual had the elevations in mind and stuff like that when they were, they,
Yeah.
we all have copies of that already, is that?
Yeah,
Yes.
we put this together. This actually brought copies of this to the deliberative session for everyone as well. This is the one that we had approved, or the board had approved, SK1. So maybe if we go out to bid for the design, the engineering design, correct me if I'm wrong, you could that could be part of the RFP, would be this conceptual design, and then you come back with the specs based on this design.
And the companies that come to bid might have engineers right on site. So I'm so reluctant to say, send this out special, when you put the RFP out and you contact the people that you, like, when you make your call list, there might already be something that they have in-house that's included in their price.
Sure.
And we could always make that step after that too, right?
I know when we had made the first initial contractors to come to the meeting to talk,
What do you mean?
everybody's first question was, where's the specs? That was everybody's first question. And we're like, we'll be getting them. And that was when they said, okay, when the RFP comes out, let us know, we'll come and bid.
So, do you think, I mean, I guess the thought I just had was, it would be easier to give yourself final grades, determine specs based on those final grades once the pile of gravel is gone. I mean, it would be a lot easier to shoot grades than it is to calculate mounds of dirt, and then, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely, but it goes back to your references, we have starting points everywhere,
Right.
so.
So, I guess my point is, do we need to have the engineering done prior to having the gravel removed, the stumps removed? And it is nice to have a plan, I understand that, but is that necessary to have first before we get the stumps and the gravel removed?
Well, what if you're doing someone that does everything?
Right.
Like, what if you're calling it, so I think that that's gonna be a business that can come in and do everything. I don't think we have to piecemeal that. I think that's something that you're gonna get one earth contractor in and they're gonna do it all.
And I think what Bonnie's looking at is making sure that we're ahead of the game, so we're moving forward.
If not, we're just gonna keep delaying to the next meeting and delaying and delaying. It's never gonna get done.
There's just not enough money.
There's enough money to do what we want to accomplish this year. We just have to get a move on it. We procrastinated too much.
So, what do you want to do? Engineering or non-engineering?
I would like to put the RFP out to include the engineering. Is that crazy?
It's just for the engineering design, RFP for just engineering design.
Whole ball of wax.
So let's put it out for the whole ball of wax with the engineering included.
Engineering, stump removal, grade, start to finish. You come in, this is the piece of land, and this is what we want in the end.
But you also need to make sure that the RFP explains clearly that there's X amount of money to be spent in this fiscal year.
Yep.
So,
So if you're gonna bring companies in, and you're gonna have to be very clear and concise in your RFP, that this is a staged, this is a step job. Step 1 this year is this. Step 2 is this. And if you can come in and give us a bid on that step 2 at the same time, that's great, because then we can take that to the taxpayers and they're gonna know exactly, we're not gonna be guesstimating anything, they're gonna know specifically what money we're going for and what the finished product is gonna be.
So what I'm hearing is we put out an RFP basically for the full package, if you will. But that package would be in phases, so that we could say we have $75,000 this year to cover phase 1, and then we can develop a warrant for phase 2 and so forth.
I wouldn't tell people we have X amount of dollars to spend.
Yeah, I'm just saying, these are the phases.
Mhm.
Well, they would tell us what the phases were. I mean, we have it laid out what the phases would be.
Right, so
I'm
you're-
looking at engineering design, and then earthwork and gravel
Mhm.
is one phase,
Yep.
or maybe two, however that might be, but it could be one.
And I guess my point is that you can get the gravel and everything removed before the engineering part of it's necessary. You can get the pile of dirt out of there for less money than we have appropriated for it.
It's just how many steps do you want to take?
No, it's,
It's really, I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's like, how much more time do you want to spend? And we keep putting RFPs out, and then we don't get any bids, or people don't do it because we're procrastinating. So if we just say, this is what we want, you know, ask the people to come, call the people and ask them to come on the site walks. Most
Make a
people are
list.
most people are gonna understand that we have to do this in a phase format, at least for this project, because it's a big project. And if they tell us that they, you know, we can do this, but, you know, I'm gonna have to have an engineer sign off on this.
Yeah, but
If that's the consensus, then we move forward with that. But maybe you're gonna come up with a company that has an engineer already and they can stamp it.
Yeah, but you have a company coming in to do the earthwork.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna engineer your electrical piece.
Why not?
Sure they will.
A general contractor does that all the time. They
Some
do
would.
everything from start to
Some
finish.
GMs will.
it's like asking a logger to do the stumping.
That's how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, you're gonna
I
eliminate
think it
some
depends on
people,
what type
right.
of business you
You
go
get,
with.
what, Bob,
Yes.
Bob is picking it.
Maybe I'm just wrong, but
I don't think you're wrong. What I think is, there's people that'll come in and move the pile of dirt and get it down to a subgrade without worrying about where the conduit and the retention ponds and the culverts are going. For a fixed price, probably less than the money appropriated, and then when it's time to, you know, we can, the fact is, you have to go down a certain distance to get to the bottom of your conduit, or the bottom of your culvert. So if the contractor, the earth removal guy came in and got to that subgrade, or not even there, but close to it, and then leave for a fixed price, if we're saving $12,000 on that particular part of it,
And then have it engineered after that? Is that what you're saying?
I think we're all saying the same thing, just different steps.
right.
And we just
How
have to
about-
agree on how we want to move
How
forward.
about if the RFP goes out, and then at the bottom line, if there's nothing there that you like, sorry, because you guys have that line in there that says that.
Well, they all have that.
I know they do, but at least we're moving forward. Like, I mean, if you have SUR and Coleman and
Really, F.R. Carroll.
FR Carroll, yes. I mean, those guys are start to finish. You don't think they're out here building Route 16 going, hold on, guys, I'm gonna get the tree guy in here first. They're coming in start to finish,
Yeah.
and they're able to do that and keep their costs down. It's a big business. But
I think if we continue to piecemeal it,
It's going to take
then we'll
forever.
get done.
Well, it
Event-
will be
In a
done.
timely manner, I should say.
But
Myself.
timely is, you know, timely is an item that we have to consider when there's only so much money to be spent.
So we look at it
Does
in phases.
the guy want to come in, the contractor want to come in, want to do everything, but work for 10 weeks and sit there for 10 and a half months till the money's ready for the next phase?
you do that, don't you?
I do.
I was going to say, we do that too.
I do that too.
So I think that's just how business works. People do things in phases.
But that's
and
that's not good for the contractor. I
It
mean,
may
it's
not
good
be,
for
but
the-
that's what's good for the people right
It's
now in this
business.
town. It's business. This is how it has to be.
Yeah.
We didn't
You build
have
a
bids to
clientele
do.
base, and they're like, Ralph, I need you to build me a wall. In 3 years, I'm gonna build another wall. Okay, I'll be
Yeah,
back.
and I say, here's my price, and I'll hold on to that price for the next 30 years.
It's because you're a good man.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay, so where are we going with this?
Put it out to bid. Ask for the full-blown thing, and then ask for,
See where we go with it.
Mm-hmm. Can you do that for us? I'll make a motion for that, please.
Well,
Wonderful.
what is the motion? Motion for what?
Can you read that motion to me, Michael?
I have it basic on my notes, RFP for parking lot start to finish.
Not, it can't be
No.
start to finish,
In
because it's not.
phases.
Okay, because it's not gonna
Phases.
include
Right.
paving at this point in time. But if we
Correct.
could get an RFP for everything, and then we can move forward with the budget season with
Based on
everything, that
phases.
would be wonderful. So if we part it out into 2 phases,
That's what I would
Yep.
recommend too.
perfect. I'll make that motion.
Motion to RFP for phases,
thank you.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Guess it
Is it-
dies for lack of a second.
I'll second that. It's gotta be spelled out a little bit better than that, though.
Yeah, I don't like start, I don't know, start to finish kind of.
How about, how can we word that then?
Prepare a phased proposal. We're requesting a phased proposal for this project. Phase 1 includes removal of the dirt. Phase 2 includes your culvert, your retention ponds, your conduit for your utilities.
I would put stumping in there too.
Stumps should go
And
to
the,
president.
and the
Well,
design.
stumps is, you
They're
don't
going
even have
either way.
to,
They're
you don't even
going.
have to say stumps,
They're
because they're
going.
digging dirt. And then you'd go from there to subgrade and paving. And then you'd go from the paving to the
Yeah, as
painting,
long as it's spelled out.
I guess. And then after all of that's done, you wanna plant shrubs.
You get that, Mr. Tracy?
I'll work with Bob and Joe on what those phases would be specifically.
Yeah.
What I have
And
is
you-
develop an RFP for the parking lot in phases. So the RFP will have specific phases as to what that might be.
And I think when the property was being purchased, they were talking about 4 to 5 years as a project, wasn't it? Like, because the $500,000 number came in, and it became a 4 to 5 year project, isn't that?
How long has it been now?
2 years now.
So we're working on it.
And then we had one more item out there, which was to break that building, that other building apart that we're moving out of there, and move that too.
Can
Yeah,
we
to
move,
get
can we
ready.
move the other motion first, because we
Oh, yeah.
haven't voted
No,
on it,
just
and then
saying,
we
just
can
a
discuss
piece.
that?
Yeah.
So we have a first and a second on that?
First was you, second was Bob.
Yep.
And that's to do
RFP.
an RFP for an engineering plan of a phased project.
No, to
We didn't say anything
include
about
that,
engineering.
The engineering
include
plan
it,
would be included in the phased
the
project.
groundwork, and then in the phases that were described earlier.
Maybe if
by-
you prepare the RFP, we can review it before you put it out, maybe.
It'll be us timing it.
Clear
Just so
what,
it- Yeah,
what was talking about specifically here.
Getting the engineering done, or putting it out, so that companies have a chance to do the drawing themselves. The
Engineering.
groundwork done,
It's a design build.
Yes.
Is what it is.
as-built. Design as-built, right? I mean, because the
No, it'd be
conceptual
a
there, the conceptual had a tree island, and we're gonna remove all the trees. So that conceptual is post-paving? I thought it was based on what was existing for trees when they were drawing it up.
I don't believe so, I think it was new trees.
No, there's no,
We had made that decision in the beginning there to
Wipe it right out.
wipe everything out and then replant because some of the saving was just not gonna work for us.
So what I have so far is RFP for parking lot as a phased project.
And those
or in Bob's
phases,
terms,
It's gonna be labeled a design build.
design build,
Yeah.
as a design build.
and you know the phases from the Harriman
We have those.
discussion that we had earlier.
It's on a timer.
All right, motion second, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
with a request to see the RFP before it gets,
Can you just email it to us before it goes out?
Are we looking for approval? Because then we have to pull together another meeting to approve it before it goes out. Depends on how much time you want to take at it.
I'd just like to see it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it takes care of Bob and Joe.
Except for one more thing with the lot, which was, we have one building that we need to move out of there, well, take apart. So it'll be two buildings,
That's going over here, right?
so.
It's gonna be in two
Two
pieces.
pieces.
So the smaller piece is actually gonna take the place of this building here, because this building's in pretty rough shape, and the police department would like that if possible. And then the other building is gonna go out where, the backstop of the ball field is, for our storage of tractor and things that we have.
We're talking about one building being split into two,
Got it?
and the one in the corner is staying.
Yes, the one in the corner staying, yep.
You're talking about splitting the other one into two, half of it going here and half of it going over.
Yes.
Is that something you guys are doing in-house?
The splitting of it is gonna be all taken care of. The moving part of it is, I've had talked to Crowell's about coming up and moving the two sections, and that's at a price of $1,900.
You okay?
I was just gonna volunteer to help myself, but if you'd rather spend $1,900, go ahead.
Oh, I thought I heard you gasp.
I did.
Wondering if you're okay.
The one building that we're gonna be moving is a 20 by 24. And that, the part of that that's gonna be moved is it's gonna have to be backed up the road all the way up to where we set it. So that's the big moving part. So it's gonna be something when nobody's around, and everything will be done right here on site.
No power lines need to be dropped, all right, the peak of that's not so tall.
No. Nope, nothing. We measured all that out.
You're gonna move it?
Put it on a carpet and drag it. No joking around here.
Well, what is it? And that would come out of that same warrant article?
It's all part of the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the money's there, that's already been turned back, right?
No, we got talking about the 75,000 that became
Oh.
available July 1.
I thought we were talking about the last
that's-
year's money that was left over.
That took care of the demolition.
I make a motion to have the buildings moved with Carl's for $1,900.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Have fun.
See, moving forward.
Right, with the games week.
Throwing in the towel.
Okay, all set with us?
Release zone.
You hungry?
Thank you.
No, Ralph.
Drive safely.
Get a check register thing. Andrew usually gives it to us.
Yeah.
Usually-
Some of the top sheets.
You didn't hand them all out yet. sign it. I was trying to give. Oops, sorry about that.
Check registers.
Check register, Mama. Thank you.
Who's Cascade? Is that someone new? I don't recall seeing that before.
I'm not sure, Mr. Brown, I just see a check.
So there's just multiple copies underneath the second one for the all of us, or just this one? Just this one. This one, down underneath, it's just multiple copies of it.
We've always put one together for every board member to review.
Right.
But you only have to sign one.
Right. Okay, so that's what, that's probably what you said when you said it was on the top.
Each one's the same one.
Yeah.
13, 229.
Yeah.
Make sure.
Went right through that.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna leave it like that.
Just so you know where you're gonna put the red flag.
And flags everywhere. Hi, Jerry. Mr. Bug. How are you? I'm doing well, sir. How are you? I'm not used to being called Mister. Unless it's by that guy.
What are you used to being called?
Dummy. See, dummy. After hours.
Get that in the oven.
Keen Continuing Ed, is that Summer Summit?
I'm sorry?
Keen Continuing Ed,
Yes.
Summer Summit? Is that going once or twice?
It's the 29th through the 1st.
Take a long.
4 days.
Is that June?
July.
July.
2 weeks.
So it's only once?
Yep.
The time, is that when, I thought you said it was June 23rd.
Yes, sir.
No? So it's only you're going once?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, even more.
If it's the same one.
Well, it's the one that Andrew's got the
Yeah.
tag on, you haven't signed it.
All right.
What?
I'll sign it when you're ready.
Good?
Forcing me to do something I really don't want to do.
Good.
You don't need our signature on all of these. You
No,
need
just
it
the
on
top.
Top one.
Yep.
Just, yeah, the one with the red
just asked that question, but I was over here in my own conversation.
Cascade, School Supplies, is that a new company? Yeah, doesn't ring a bell.
Not that I know of.
It's the same thing, of the paper company.
I think it is.
Cascade Paper.
Where did you go that you need a car rental?
Well, that's still part of the Arizona trip. It kind of got lost in transition.
Oh,
What trip?
that was part of Arizona's trip last year.
Yeah, part of the Arizona trip.
That was this year, right?
Yeah, that was the,
Spring.
Last
Yes.
school year. That's
Correct.
Right. I think that's right.
thank you for pointing that out.
I used to have them, the year started July 1st.
You got any more of those
Happy New Year.
available down there? Thank you.
I see. That explains that one.
Tighten up.
What you got on there? This person, who's there? I'm gonna pay that bill for the last posting of the tree removal, the RFP. Do you know if Andrew did that for me yet?
Bill for the posting. I can do that.
Everything that will. Saving money, thank you.
No, I have to, let's change. I voted it down.
What was it? What was it?
This came out with China.
No, new amount.
889.
That's right.
Where did you get that from?
It was supposed to be
Teresa,
one.
Teresa gave it to us.
Oh, is that the packet he just gave us when he came in?
886.
Yeah, the update.
887.
Really good.
Exactly.
It's fruit punch.
Cup inside of a cup,
Yeah, it like freezes.
the water in,
Like when I go to the gym, I do. But
on
when
the
I
outside.
Nope. It just stays really insulated. It takes a long time for the ice to melt. That's what I use when I ride my bike and stuff. When I go hiking. Yep.
Wicked Witch of the North.
Sometimes. I've been called worse.
What, the Wicked Witch of the West? Well, at least you're not called the Wicked Witch of the South, because, you know, that's the worst.
I don't know. I prefer to live in the south, I think.
We got this one with them.
Yeah, the West, you just,
I don't know.
well, witches don't like fire, so you're gonna stay out of the West.
I don't know. I'm
Oh,
a firebug,
water.
so that's
They
probably.
don't like water either.
Or ice.
They melt
Or
it.
tequila.
I need the one.
Don't eat those.
Yes.
Was there one more this week?
Was I there? I think I was.
This month?
She doesn't remember, she ate the worm.
I remember.
Stop it right now.
I don't think you're gonna receive these in the same order they came out. Does that matter?
That's okay.
Oh, good. I did my best. Slow working progress, carry on. Jogging the papers.
More than one check register? There has to be, because this one's totally different than the one I looked at.
If you look at the dates, I think one's earlier and one's later. This is a different batch number. This is 27/4.
This is the one I looked at.
This goes to the 16th, and then this is the 30th through the 30th through the
Okay,
1st. No, all right.
What's that thing? There's
You didn't
other-
work at the newspaper, did you?
Who the heck printed these things? I go from like page 1 to page 10 to page 7. Does anybody else's revenue report messed up? I have page 1, but then printed on the back I have expense report. So it says page 1 of 2, but then you flip it over and you have 10 of 10. Am I the only lucky soul?
Looks like.
Mine looks fine.
Is you guys want your copies for the check, the other, this check register? There's 3 of them, for
They're all the same, Mark.
I don't know. I guess I'm just the chosen one tonight.
Jay,
Yeah, same.
you have one of those? You have one of those?
Yep.
I do too. Give Steve the next two.
Actually, no, I don't have the second one. Okay. Just 2.
That jogged too.
that,
Need that to be jogged as well.
jog it.
Not yet. That's press room talk from the Rochester Courier days, jogging the papers.
Learn something new every day, right?
Yeah, all that important stuff. Send me a copy of that.
Here's your copy of this one. You guys want your copies?
Have you done?
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
You don't, because there's 3 more. I took one, there's three different check registers there. That's, see that? Only because we only had the one meeting this month, so there's probably,
I got my 3.
in the end, there was 5 copies of each one, and that's what, so.
Yeah, I got my 3. Hi, Priscilla. How are you? How it's quacked up today. Exasperated. Good word. Exasperated. That's a pretty good word. Anything with 2 syllables for me is really good.
Everybody's all set on the manifest, can I have a motion to, motion to approve? Oh, motion to approve the manifest,
Multiple manifests.
multiple.
I'll make a motion to approve the multiple manifests.
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I will abstain. Minutes of the last meeting.
I have a correction, please, on page 7. On the vote for the traditional report cards, I voted no.
I'm sorry.
And I don't, Ralph, did you abstain on that vote for the report cards?
No, I don't believe I did. I believe I voted in the affirmative.
Okay, we'll fix it.
Can we stay on page 7 for a second?
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets down. Second line under the 5th bullet, was not enough front loading as opposed to lading. I also have a small change on page 2. Anybody wants to bear with me? During the visitor public comments, 1, 2. It's the question, will Dr. Sandra Stotsky be coning? I would rather see coming, C-O-M-I-N-G. Got one more. If, actually, I don't have one more. What was that?
Anybody else? Now can I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 18th, 2014,
Make that motion.
As amended?
as amended?
I'll second the motion.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any reason why we can't do the non-public now of June 18th? And if not, can I have a motion to approve the non-public minutes of June 18th, 2014?
I'll make that motion.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment. Mary?
Yes, I would like to know if the board feels more confident in their decision to go with the mass standards after the meeting with Dr. Stotsky last night.
Math and focus?
Pardon?
Math and focus?
No, the mass standards.
Oh, the math.
As opposed to
math.
Common Core.
I thought you said math.
No,
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, error.
I mean, more information is good. I thought it was a very good, she gave a lot of helpful information. I don't know if I could say it actually convinced me any more prior to, but it was a very good meeting last night, and hopefully people will watch it and understand what's going on. Well,
I was happy to hear her say that she didn't have a problem with the math and focus so much, that she felt as though that was fairly good standard or approach,
Yep,
better than the previous math.
everyday math, yeah.
Right. I was happy to hear that.
anybody else? All right. Correspondence. So,
Yes, at the last meeting, I had asked for a copy of the summer workshops that were being offered to the teachers at Fall School. And Mr. Tursi told us about the Summer Summit and the curriculum work being done in district. And Mary added the quality performance assessment and some seminars at Ceresc. And I asked if any of them were Common Core related, and both Mary and Mr. Tursi said they weren't. I put in a 91A request, to get a list of those workshops being offered, and there were workshops that were Common Core related. So I'd like an explanation of why I got a no to that question.
Mr. Brown?
Sure.
The reason why I answered no and Mary answered no as well is because we haven't sent out specific professional development to our staff for Common Core, meaning if the only professional development that was being offered was Common Core, what we sent to them was the list of professional development opportunities that were coming from Ceresc, which included some of Common Core. However, that does not mean that our staff was attending those sessions. So if you'll see what was provided in the right to know, Ceresc has a series of professional development opportunities, and some of those professional development opportunities include Common Core. That doesn't mean that we're sending information to our staff saying you need to go to Common Core professional development. So we can't edit any type of agenda that comes from a provider of professional development opportunities such as Ceresc. Say these are all of the things they're offering over the summer. Here's the list of offerings. We don't go through and pull out what's developed by providers when it comes to professional development. That does not mean that we are promoting our staff to go to these events.
But that wasn't my question. My question was simply, were any of them Common Core related? And if I had investigated further, then this board would have thought there was nothing being offered, period, Common Core related to all school people. The board's made it clear that Common Core is not
I have to tell you that just because you didn't ask the question doesn't mean that we haven't done our groundwork to know that there were Common Core things offered, but we also know that there are other products being offered that are not Common Core related. So we do our research and we do understand.
I'm not saying that you didn't, but as a member of the public, that's a question that I asked, and I wanted an answer, and I don't feel that I got an accurate one.
All right, anybody else? Administration, financial report.
I provided the board this evening the updated financial report when we had put the packet together last week. There was a financial report included in there. However, Andrew had run the updated numbers as of late Monday night, and these are the updated numbers. So you can look at the cover sheet, particularly around the estimated fund balance. This one right here.
And that's for the end of June 30th.
This is it. So this is your end-of-year report. And it's an estimate because there's still,
Oh, it's still...
everything's been encumbered.
It's still an estimate.
Pretty accurate.
And we kept it pretty close, didn't we? As far as, you know...
Did you give it all of us one?
Yeah.
Looks like this.
I have one.
Oh, you do?
I don't.
I bet you do.
I do. Okay.
So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding these.
Looks like it's a little more than 10% of the...
It's good to see that going back, but we need to try to narrow that down a lot better.
What if the taxpayers are okaying the budget, we have that amount that's able to be returned back, is there a way of figuring what kind of federal funds we could do without that total that amount? Which, I mean, so the money would still be spent, there'd be no money going back to the taxpayers, but the taxpayers have already willingly raised and appropriated the funds. And we can reduce the reliance on the federal government in that amount.
How do you do that on an annual basis where where it's so diverse from year to year.
Go ahead, Michael.
I just like, well, we should point out that, coming into the year with the unreserved general fund balance was $674,000. So you're coming into the year with that. So you need to take that into account with your total there for 2014, 886. The bulk of what's being, and I don't want to use the term return to taxpayers because that's confusing. This goes to offset the tax rate. The bulk of that in our operating budget we had fewer high school students attend Spalding that we tuitioned for, and they had over budgeted our out-of-district placements in our special education lines. That's the bulk of it. So
Yeah, I saw
it
one.
did fairly well on the budgeting.
Almost close to $250,000, right?
Right. In your expense report. So you came in with a $675,000 fund balance, and then we also had a savings in tuition for high school as well as out-of-district placements.
So the two of those together pretty much equal the money that we're returning right there, so we did
Right.
budget fairly well then.
Yes, there's really those two areas that it's hard to predict the high school tuition because we might have students that we project the enrollment when we develop the budget process. However, they could move, they could early graduation and such, and so that those numbers are adjusted. And out of district placement, this year we're very specific in predicting what we would have for next year. So I'm hoping that's going to be even tighter.
So I thought when the kids going from 8th to 9th grade, whether it's Spalding or Kingswood, well, let's take Spalding. Don't they take that number and multiply their tuition fee and then request that the year before? I mean, is that...
No, they set their tuition rate, and that's what we budget. But we develop our budget based on our projected enrollments. So we take our current 8th grade and bump them to the 9th, bump out 12th, and that total amount for our high school students is what we put in the operating budget. However, between the time for the following year.
Upcoming year, okay.
Yeah, so due to circumstances that we might not be aware of, between the approval of the budget in March and the start of the school year, we could have a fluctuation of high school students. We could also have a fluctuation of high school students during the school year. So if a student leaves after first semester, we don't see that on our bill the remainder of the year. So we only pay half of that year worth of tuition.
Bob?
Michael, under the food service deficit of 7832, that's, should that number be 2,500?
That was repairs and maintenance that we're responsible for, and that fridge was also included in that.
Okay.
So we bought the refrigerator outright, we didn't borrow the money from...
So we have that, right?
Yes. Not sure if it's been delivered yet or not, but it's been purchased.
And those monies get, offset the deficit as of June 30th? Are they sent back?
Yeah, so you see it offset your total to bring it to the 886. So it was purchased in fiscal year 14.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm up here talking about this. These monies get returned when?
These will go to offset the tax rate next year.
Okay. But the monies don't stay on our account until next year. When do they get transferred back to the town?
It doesn't, the monies don't go back to the town. It's put into, it reduces.
Yep.
So when they do the tax rate, these monies have been calculated in the reduction of the total amount of budget.
That'll be...
And that's how your tax rate is set.
I guess I
in
wanted to know
December.
when the money's
Right.
transferred back to the...
Not next year,
Right.
but
December.
December.
There isn't money that goes back. It just lowers the tax rate.
Right.
And that money stays with us then?
it reduces your tax rate.
So then what the tax rate would be based on, so our operating budget next year was what, 8.8? So you would reduce the 886 from that 8.8,
Okay.
and then your tax rate is set on that.
But that'll, just for my own clarification again, this number here will be reflected in the town tax bill that comes out, whether it's November or December. That savings is going to affect that tax bill.
Correct.
That's what I was asking.
Okay. Yeah, good. I think he said next year, but actually it's,
For setting the tax rate for this fiscal year,
Right.
our fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yes.
anybody else have any questions?
And we have the expense report. Are there any questions on the expense report?
My only question on that would be the difference in the grand total and what this number is here. There's, that 680 is,
Yeah.
where do we come up with the other 180? I'm sorry, $206,000. I mean, $206,000, yeah. That number says 680, 957, and this one up here is 886, 977. So the Wakefield expense report summary, page 1010, has one number. This one has a different number. So where does the other two come in?
The other two, I guess I'm not sure where you're looking at the other two.
Right here is what I'm looking at on page 10 of the.
So look at the total of 8768.
Well, I'm actually looking at that last number there. And
That's-
then this estimated fund balance. So, I'm just, probably in here, I haven't dug deep enough probably.
The offset of revenue. I'll look into that.
Okay.
Okay, so just so I understand this, you have this number, and you add it to this number, and it should equal that number?
The 886 takes into account all of these, all the numbers that you'll see above it. Is that what you're asking?
No.
Well, he's going off the revenue and the expense report. Those two numbers, I believe, if I understand the question, is the figure off the revenue report and the figure off the expense report should equal the 886.
Which figure are you referring to?
The
Same thing,
Wakefield
it's the same
revenue,
question I
all
just gave.
funds,
So the 121?
121,931.57, and then the expense report of the
680.
689,57.59 don't equal the 886,977.28. So I guess I'm wondering where the rest of the money is.
That's pretty much the same problem I posed.
So you're totaling this one, just so I'm correct, just so I can make sure I find out. What you're asking is the 121,931 under revenue. Adding that to the expense report, the amount remaining. Where are you seeing those in the fund
Page-
balance numbers? Right, that's where the question is. Where is that located in this line here?
Wasn't it, yeah, I believe if you take the 121 off the revenue and the 680 957.59 of the expense report, those two figures should equal the 886,97728. The estimated fund balance, but they do not equal that.
Now it's like $84,088
That's
and
because-
12 cents difference.
Because those numbers are in the revenue general fund and the expense general fund as part of this total calculation that adds up to the 886. So those numbers are in these bottom lines right here to add up to the estimated fund balance. So you come in with the 674, you add the 100,000, add the 8.8 million, reduce by the 8.6 million and the $7,800 and the $75,000 to come up with the 886. So the numbers off of these reports are included in the revenue general fund and the expense general fund numbers.
We're not seeing it.
Hmm?
But we're not seeing it.
Not yet. You did say that you'd be able to.
Yeah, so guess I just need the specific question to ask.
Well, if you want to ask your question, like I said, I thought what Bonnie's question was, the total from the expense report plus the total of the revenue should equal. But that wouldn't work either, because revenue, you're gonna,
Right.
so I don't, maybe I didn't understand Bonnie's question, so I'll leave that to Bonnie. But I do see where,
I just see, like, I guess in my checks and balances, I'm going through the reports that I have, and I just can't get it to add up, and I'm not saying that, and it's just, I guess I'm thinking that if you take your revenue that's left, and then you take the
There's
expense,
Probably a simple
but you
answer
can't
to
add- I
the
mean,
discrepancy.
and then you're gonna have this.
that's an expense and a revenue, they're
I
two
know.
different things. So,
One goes negative,
That's
one
fine.
goes
Right.
positive.
right, so you can't really,
It's okay.
adding them together
fine.
is.
Next, you have the food service operating costs. Any questions on that? You also see the last page was the cafe services report.
So we're gonna get a check back from them for the $6,434.25, so that it goes by what the contract was, is that right?
I believe it's above the contract.
And
I think we're getting more back from what the contract had stated.
so we don't,
Yeah.
page 29 and page cafe services, they're the 6434.25, that you don't take the 2,351 that's in the parentheses on page 29 away from that.
Page 29.
It's your Wakefield School District food operating.
Well,
I don't know the page.
right, the new ones that he gave us tonight, those are your, it was the ones, the ones that are numbered came in your package.
Yeah.
The ones that are not numbered are the ones that we received
Given
tonight.
Okay.
Your bottom line is what's coming back to the district is the 6,434.
So there's old information and there's new information.
I gave the new out tonight.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the expense report?
Prior to the new information, if I was reading this right, would that mean there was a deficit? Okay. So, all right, so,
However, that didn't impact what we're getting back.
you don't take that loss away from that?
I'm sorry, this was included in the total amount. that's going back.
Okay, so
39.99.
that happened before this was derived?
That's what we had estimated, isn't it?
Okay. I think I can follow that.
All right, everybody else set? That was, we just did Gateway Services, correct? You're in.
In looking at the grant overview, at what point do those monies go? I know that they all. Like in the Title I, there's 33,136.49 left. Is that because the grant runs longer than
It carries over.
it carries over?
Mhm.
Okay.
Title I tends to carry over.
And Title II as well?
Yeah.
Everybody all set? SAU 64, status of vacancies.
And a question had come up, Mr. Chair, is regarding, are we all set with hiring? I believe that we have a second grade position that we need to hire for. However, it sounds we're going to be moving a current kindergarten teacher to second grade and hiring for a kindergarten position. So we have a kindergarten position to fill, and I believe that's, and a health position.
In a health position?
Correct.
Do you have a lot of people interested?
Unfortunately, we had offered the job to somebody and they had accepted and declined a couple weeks later. And we're in the process right now of waiting for a return message on a job offer for that kindergarten position.
Good.
So these openings happen, these jobs don't get posted, or are they?
They are posted.
Mhm.
They are posted
Fine.
internally as well as externally.
Okay. I remember something like a.
Is it like
You go on the internet.
edjobs.com?
Yeah.
Right,
Jobs,
right,
correct.
something like
Yeah.
that, okay.
Which is pretty much the central clearinghouse for New Hampshire.
So do you think it'll be difficult to get a health teacher before school starts?
I'm hoping not.
Okay. Okay.
Summer Summit update.
I had forwarded the board any updated information I have regarding the Summer Summit. There was an agenda as well as a description. However, to this point, I haven't received the specifics on what are the strands that they're offering. Once I receive that, I'll forward that to the board as well. So you have what I've received up to this point.
That was in this morning's emails, right?
At this point in time, you're still offering it to the board? You're still offering it to the staff?
Yes, we have a team going from Paul School.
Okay.
And there is other beneficial things besides Common Core.
Absolutely. As I said earlier, Mr. Chair, it's a great networking opportunity. Plus, there's work time for the staff. So we actually have time to work together to plan for the upcoming year. So you take some of the information that you learned in some of the sessions, and it becomes part of your planning process for the year. So it's a great sort of in-house professional development opportunity, and you have access to facilitators that can help facilitate some of the discussions around some of the topics, as well as tap into colleagues from around the state as to maybe resolve some of the issues you might have or get creative with some of the things you might want to do.
Networking. To me, that means that's what people do when they're out looking for a job.
Not in education, not at all, or not when you're in business. You're always looking for contacts to better yourself and to get new ideas and to get new perspectives and even just learning techniques, technique that you might not have heard of or maybe weren't taught, but you can network with someone and figure it out.
And what do you mean by facilitators?
If people that are trained in facilitating discussions, so if you have a large group like this and we want to tackle a topic and we're hung up, they have people that are floating around the room that can come in and sort of facilitate the discussion to get an end product.
So they're not, you don't need a definitive answer. All you really need is just to shift it to get a consensus.
Correct. Or just to at least assist in some way or provide additional resources.
Yeah, facilitate, and that's a poor, I don't like that at all.
People have been doing it for years. You always need someone to be the middle ground sometimes.
Yeah, it's called the Delphi technique, and I believe it was started in, the communists. This is how they do things. You don't get people to make decisions. All you have to do is get people just by consensus. That's a problem. It really is. The more I hear about this, the more I do not like the summer. And, once again, the board had no decision on this.
We approve of professional development.
Arizona? Did you know about Arizona beforehand?
No, sir, I did not.
Did we know, we found out about Summer Summit after the fact, after it was already planned.
I think they had gone to Summer Summit for quite a few years, like 3 or 4 years they had been participating, and just because we didn't.
Well, they've been doing Common Core for 4 years, and so it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's not a good thing. It really isn't. And we're spending a lot of money on it.
If the grants that's coming from the federal government are what's being used to pay for the PDA, professional development, doesn't that kind of tell you that we're having to follow the federal government and their plan or their approach? I mean, is that? I'm just hung up on sovereignty, I guess.
Well, it is. Now they got facilitators. Fine.
I have to say, I think I support the teachers going for professional development, and I think that we have bright, wonderful teachers on our staff, and they're going to know what we're going forward with and what we're not going forward with, and hopefully they can find tools to utilize when they're developing their curriculum to follow the standards that we've adopted for Wakefield. And they standards partner, so I believe in professional development. I think that there's a lot of wonderful things that can happen from the summits and the conferences that you go to. even if it's just a speaker that you hear that might enlighten a topic that you have or what have you. And I understand that it's expensive, but I also want our kids to have the newest and the greatest ideas to teach something. So if it follows a standard that we've implemented into our curriculum, then I wholeheartedly support the staff going and furthering themselves and bettering themselves for the betterment of our students.
Well, that all sounds nice, but
It's okay that we have different opinions.
that's right. And there's also an RSA that cover, here again, if we're gonna cover, go by what the law says, and we're not doing that, and we're not being informed. That's the biggest thing. We're not being informed.
Of what? I just don't know. That's why I'm asking of what. What are we not being informed of?
Summer.
Well, I don't think that.
After the fact, same thing.
It was in the budget.
We're not being informed. I mean, here is RSA 32.5, that because the Summer Summit is being paid for through a grant. And I have it right here. This is part of, there was a grant review committee formed up at county, which I'm a part of, but the governing body of a budget committee shall not thereafter insert in any budget column or special warrant article an additional amount or purpose of appropriation which was not disclosed or discussed at that hearing without first holding one or more public hearings on the supplemental budget request for the town or district expenditures. That, which includes grants. So the grants have to be accepted, according to the RSA, by holding at least one public hearing. And that hasn't taken place. Why has that if the RSA states that there needs to be one or more public hearings?
What's that number, Steve?
32.5.
Just 325.
32.
32.5, section 32, semicolon 5.
So last year, so in the years that you've been on the board, and have we had those grants brought to us for approval?
No.
Okay, so it's not anything that maybe this administration, but we haven't had it done before at all?
Correct, but that doesn't,
It doesn't mean it's right, but
Correct.
those are something that if we learn something new, we need to bring it forward.
right.
That's why you're just looking that up.
Okay.
That's also why I provided the board with the assurances before I signed them. You have the applications.
Mhm.
We haven't received our allocations for next year for our federal funds. So we haven't put together the applications for that yet. You'll see that before we even submit it. So, just as you requested.
And that's something that hasn't necessarily happened in the past.
Right. I can't change. I can't.
Right.
No,
I
but
can't
doing
go
the
back,
same
but I can move
thing,
forward.
doing the same thing moving forward isn't acceptable.
I think a board before us, Steve, gave the SAU the authority to accept grants. And so there must be something in that RSA somewhere, some caveat that says you can do that. I mean, I agree with you, grants should come before the board, there should be a public hearing. And I remember discussing that before, but I think a group of people before us, like both before us, had given power to the SAU.
RSA is calling for a public hearing.
Do a public hearing?
I would probably want to go by what the RSA says, not how it's always been done. I'm not support, after looking at the, the summer summit, I'm not in support of it. And I would even make a motion that staff do not attend
Did you,
anything
did you see the,
that's aligned with Common Core.
did you see the emails that came out of the SAU this morning or last night that was giving you a breakdown of the presentation at Keene State College?
No, I haven't seen that.
Because I looked at it and and it may just be where the Common Core was taken out of the verbiage. It's quite possible that the presentation was so that it didn't mention Common Core at all. But there was common instruction. Is that what there was?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, I guess I would want clarification if it's just labeled something different. I guess that's my question. Is it just labeled differently, or is it Common Core no longer being advocated?
When I looked at the agenda, I didn't see anything relative to Common Core.
Right.
My question would be, why would board members think that we would have staff going to professional development opportunities around Common Core when it's not something we're using? Why would we waste time in doing that or money when we know it's not what we're using? So I'd like to know that.
Right.
So if we're at Summer Summit and there's a strand offered around Common Core, why would we have teachers go to that strand?
I don't believe you would.
Thank you.
It's a trust issue, it sounds like to me.
And because I read the email, I think I had faith and an idea that it wasn't geared towards Common Core. So.
And if the board starts not approving professional development opportunities because the provider is offering strands around Common Core, then everything we have is going to be in-house, because the majority of professional development opportunities have strands around Common Core. That does not mean that our staff are attending. But if there's an affiliation with it in some way that's being offered as, a 2-day workshop out of a 5-day session, if we don't approve, the board doesn't approve that, then our staff is going to be missing out on other opportunities. Because it's widely spread through professional development opportunities that are being offered.
What's being spread?
Common Core is commonly offered in any type of professional development provider that's providing a series of PD events throughout the year.
I'm sure it's part of it.
Yeah, and
That doesn't mean we're sending people to those.
But sprinkled doesn't mean geared towards. You can have agenda items that wholeheartedly embrace an idea, and then you can have agenda items that brush or touch upon.
What's wrong with it being in-house? Just as we heard last, you really don't want to be using consultants.
That's one opinion. That's her opinion.
Okay. So what, you can't agree, what, so no one's allowed to agree with that?
No, but I think that in-house is good. We have a lot of in-house professional development throughout the year. And then sometimes going somewhere else. They haven't.
Are the resources in-house? Do we have the resources available in-house to create good professional growth or professional development?
I think if Mr. Trissy thought that we wouldn't be going to the summit.
Right.
Plus,
I agree.
I feel it's very important that people experience professional development out of their school and out of their district, so they can see and hear things that are going on outside of what they're used to every day. It's called gathering experience and hearing of different opinions and listening and forming your own opinion based on other people's opinions and other people's knowledge base.
I just like to base my opinion on my experience,
Mhm.
so.
And you can't get a variety of experience if you're always experiencing the same thing.
Oh, yeah, you can't get a variety of opinions if you only experience one thing.
Correct.
That's what he said.
Good, then I heard it properly.
So I would hope that the board does go down the path of approving or not allowing
I think we
staff
just
to
wanna
attend
be,
professional development, because it sounds like it's a trust issue.
Oh, I don't-
think
I didn't use the word professional development. I used the word that, you know, like Summer Summit, that's aligned with Common Core.
And have you gotten an indication that it's aligned with Common Core?
Hmm?
initially, only because the paperwork that we were seeing
Right.
was using those terms. So,
And if the full menu of strands that are being offered, which would be several from what I experienced last year, there could be a strand or two in there that revolves around Common Core. However, Paul's school staff will not be going into that strand.
I'm sure there is.
So the way Keene's set up is that they have basically classrooms or common areas where different strands are going on, and you pick the strand that you go to. So as a staff member at the Paul School, knowing that we're not utilizing Common Core, why would I go into a Common Core strand?
It'd be a
That's
waste of
trust
time.
in the
It'd be a waste
staff,
of
which I
time.
have, that they wouldn't do that.
That's right.
and you, it's kind of like ideology or theology, you know, I mean, if you see the other side point of view, you're able to either solidify your point of view or
I mean,
blossom.
Steve, I think you should go.
but to say, but to say that, see, I mean,
Who's
this is,
invited?
you know, why would someone go into a Common Core strand?
But he's saying they're not.
He's saying.
I
that he has
understand that.
faith that they're not.
But it's, why would someone do Common Core to begin with?
Because it's out there.
And be so adamant about doing Common Core as that has happened within our school district. And so adamantly that Common Core, Common Core, Common Core.
I gotta disagree, I
I do
think
too.
I hear
No,
Josie saying
no, I haven't finished yet.
that he's not asking the staff to attend these Common Core.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying it's the same, to say that, okay, they're gonna go and there's a Common Core strand, but because we're not using Common Core, they wouldn't go into that strand. It's the same thing as what we've already experienced here. It's been, for the last 4 years, it's been Common Core, Common Core, Common Core, Common Core. Why would someone be so adamant about using Common Core when there is other things out there that are far superior? That's the point I'm making. It's the same thing. Well, we're not going to go to it, but yet it's been rammed down the school district's throat for the last 4 years, and there's better things out there. Bob,
Well, the last 4 years, they were using Common Core. So maybe
That's
they
what
did
I'm
go.
saying.
Maybe they did go to those strands back 4 years ago. This year, they're not doing that. Am I correct saying that?
Correct.
but you're missing the point.
No, I'm not missing the point. I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying. But they're telling us that they're not offering that to our staff.
It may be
Well, you
offered,
didn't
but
say
it's not being
offer.
Well,
accepted.
is that true? They're not
sorry.
gonna go into any of those strands of Common Core. That'd be a waste of their time. Waste of all of our time.
And, you
Sorry.
know, Jerry will be there, you know, it's, again, it's not something that we necessarily have to reiterate to the staff, because I trust the staff knows. Plus, it's their own professional development for their own instructional practices that they have to do every day, which doesn't revolve around Common Core at this point, because it's not what we adopted. So, again, it's,
I think we should
we've
move forward.
we've moved
We need to
forward
move
from
forward.
this.
I don't, do we need to,
There's no vote needed here.
This
is
was
there?
an
there's no
update.
vote need, this is just an update. We don't need a vote, please.
You could make one,
I don't think that you're gonna like the outcome if you do.
but at least it'll be on the historical record.
What's, oh, jeez.
What if the motion was to embrace the professional development opportunities offered so long as it was not connected to Common Core?
They're kind of saying,
Strategy.
they're saying that though.
They're
I
already
believe
telling
that's
us
what-
that, so
I
we
hear
need to
them.
have faith
That's
in
what
them.
I
We
hear.
shouldn't have to
Motion
make
for
a
that?
motion to have faith in them.
I agree.
Okay.
I'm saying for
Let's move on.
Steve's comfort,
Geez, thanks.
well, you know,
No, it's just, apparently no one sees that, you know, yeah, you know,
We-
it was so
We
I
adamant.
get what you're saying.
We see and we
It's
hear
so
what you're
adamant
saying.
Common Core, but now we're just gonna you know,
We're through with Common Core. We voted it down.
you're not missing, you're not getting my point.
there's other
Report cards.
So there's an update on report cards with the board's vote to go back to the grading practices of numerical grades as well as letter grades. We have to go back in and redevelop the report card because we use Power School as our report card. So we have to go back in and redevelop that report card in Power School. So Mr. Gregoire is putting together a team of teachers to do that. It'll be very similar to the report cards that we've had in the past. I asked Mr. Gregoire to pull some of he went into students' files and pulled some of the old report cards, what they look like, and I'm hoping that they look better coming out from what they used to look like. And I did provide the board with what a grade 6 report card looks like currently. It'd be something similar to that. But we haven't gone into Power School to redevelop a K-8 report card at this point.
Huge thing to do or easy?
It's not a monstrous task. We just have to get the staff together to do it in the summers.
We must have archived files that, there must be like past versions available.
What we have is what we have in-house. Our records go to Spalding. At the end of the year, we did try to find those records. It
I meant
appears that
formats. You must have formats that you can, you know, like set defaults. That you must be able to like punch in the year of the default you want to set in.
nobody has them. Nobody seems to have them on file in their computers right now. So what we'll be taking is just hopefully resurrecting similar to what we have on paper file. Again, going back to our we don't have anybody in-house who's in middle school who's had a traditional report card out of middle school, and they discard the report cards at Spalding, only keeping a permanent file called a yellow card, where it has a history of all their report cards over time. So,
would it be helpful if, you know, former students that their report cards laying around from 3 or 4 years ago, would that be helpful?
if someone had one, it might be good to look at, but I don't think it's going to be, as Mr. Tracy said, a monstrous task to resurrect that as it looks like in 8th grade. It would be helpful, but it's not
Standard
imperative.
report card.
Now, in asking or hearing the voice of the parents, are you going to reenact the honor roll and like the principal, dean's list or whatever they call it for achievement? Are you gonna?
We still do that during our awards ceremony. We haven't sent it off the newspaper, but I mean, we still do.
I think the honor roll,
Yes.
and I
Well,
think
we
the
do.
high honors and the honor roll, I think putting it out on that piece of paper, I know it
What
sounds.
piece of paper?
It used to go home in the bulletin. It would go home and like, when the report cards came out, it would be a separate sheet on the back and the honor roll and high honor roll went out.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't
And
done.
kids got certificates for it, I
It wasn't-
believe.
They did.
We
It
do
was in
that
the
at the end.
newspaper.
Yep.
We do that at the end of the year currently, Bonnie. We have for the last. I don't know if that's changed or when it changed.
It used to be quarterly.
Quarterly.
It was
And,
quarterly and it
yeah.
would be in the Granite State, it would be in the Fosters.
Granite State.
The not Granite State, what, yeah, Granite
Granite
State
State.
News,
Granite State, Carroll County,
Independent.
same, I think.
Rochester Courier.
Yep, and, you know, and I know that it sounds crazy.
No, it doesn't sound crazy. I was kind of smiling at the Rochester Courier comment. Has been great.
Well, and they used to get a certificate from
And
the
they-
principal or the superintendent saying, thank you for your hard work, we appreciate you, keep up the good work, you know, let's see if you can get all 4. And I think if they got all 4, I think they used to have like a principal's party at the end of the year.
We do have the awards ceremony at the end of the year.
But for all grades or just the older ones?
No, for all grades. For grades.
grades, I
Yeah.
attended it
Yeah,
this year.
This year, you know, we go right up to 7th grade and we do this. We don't do 8th grade because we do 8th grade at the graduation. Sir.
I would just hope that nothing, for students in the future, you know, Eliza got through the school all right, but 5th, 6th grade, she was witnessing 8th graders be recognized, and she was truly working towards being on high honors for her entire, after 3rd grade, right up through 8th grade. And the comment to me was, it doesn't matter because they don't care. So I don't want other kids to really feel as though their teachers don't care, you know. So the experience that I witnessed for my child, I wouldn't want other kids or parents to. I think the honor roll is an important part of the education process.
It is something we'll be talking about, you know, as we also do the new report card, redo the report card.
Yeah.
Because I certainly heard that loud and clear from this body as well as from our community forum.
And Mr. Gregoire will be proactive in putting together, you know, in whether it's his beginning of the letter, beginning of the year letter, but as soon as he has developed that report card, that information will get out to parents. As I had said in one of the questions that came across about, you know, I don't necessarily feel that we're going to need a forum for the report card because it's a traditional, everyone's familiar with what a standard report card looks like. People don't have a lot of questions around what an A- is if you put the numerical range for an A-. So there's not a lot of front-loading on the information for a standard report card, as there will be in the future around competency-based report cards. We move in that direction. Hopefully we do.
But I think the honor roll needs to be part of that. And that should be
Quarterly.
quarterly, yeah, every marking period, quarterly.
Well noted.
I had a question that could be under old business, I guess. The computers that we've bought and we let the kids use now, is there an app on there that is nothing but Common Core? Isn't there like not a Ames Web, it's a different
Pearson? It's Pearson. It's the Pearson app.
Is that on all of those computers so that when it's being used, information's being transmitted somewhere to, I mean,
I don't think so. I don't think that. We don't.
the Pearson app?
You know, I've seen the apps, you know, for whether it's for the iPad or the
The iPad,
computer.
it would be on the iPad.
And you can, it's more for educators to look at and say, you know, what this different standards look like. You know, what is the standard for math in 3rd grade, and you know, understanding, you know, numbers, something of that nature. But I don't think it's on any of our student computers, and I can't imagine the teachers are looking at it, wasting their time looking at it if they have it on their iPad now.
Could you get a definitive answer whether or not it is on these computers that the kids are using?
I can check to see if they're on the computers. I can tell you we have not systematically put anything on these computers regarding Common Core.
Well, they may have been bought with it already on there.
I don't think so. We you know, when Nate purchased them, he knows what they look, you know, they mirror them to look exactly like each other, and I know that we haven't done that.
Pearson contracted with Apple to have them installed automatically on iPads when they're being sold to schools. California just did like they just bought a bunch of iPads, and they actually got contracted to
I
actually
can tell you
put that app on it.
I can tell you
So-
we don't have that on our iPads as a systematic. pretty
Right,
generic when
and I
we
know
get
they're
them.
coming pre-installed now. The iPads are coming pre-installed.
You'll get a chance to see that when you get your own iPad in your hands as part of your budget process.
But that's what was going on in California and one other state as well. The iPads were coming pre-installed with the Pearson app, which is the Common Core app.
I'm just saying that for us, the iPads we purchased do not look like that. I can tell you that.
And you could be sure that
There's no
anything
icon
you
on there or
purchase,
anything.
We put our icons on.
Okay.
They come pretty generic, and
Mhm.
you know, when we got them, and I think Mr. Byrne would agree that we had to install any apps that we wanted the kids to be using. And again, they come, but you know, when you get it, you'll see there may be a dozen or 15 apps on there. They're all very generic, specific to Apple or email or messaging or something of that nature. But no, not systematically. We certainly have not done that. Could there be a computer in the teacher's room that has it in their classroom that has it? Certainly could.
and would they automatically be on any future purchase, I guess is.
Well, I mean, we'd have to take a look at that ourselves. Again, this is not something I've heard of what Ms. Joy's talking about, so it would be something we'll be looking at when we get our new computers in here over the summer. We'll certainly take a look at that.
Yeah, because that is what.
I'm interested to see that myself, because
That is what Pearson was doing on
Yeah.
some of the iPads. They
Interesting.
were, if you're doing Common Core and you're ordering from Apple, they're pre-installing that app, the
Yeah,
Common
I
Core
would
app.
expect that, but we'll take a look.
I had not heard of that before. I am familiar with the app because years ago when it was
Sure.
announced, and
Mhm.
I have an iPad from 2-3 years ago from my old school. When I went to training, you could download that app and look at what the Common Core was. It's
Right.
not an app that you use to send information out. It's just standard based. It's just showing you what to cover. So there's not something where you're answering questions or sending things out. It's for your, it's like an ebook. They
Right.
call it an app. but
Well,
it's
I
an
don't
ebook.
know, I don't know what it is, because I didn't go any further with it, but I know
Yeah.
that they were pre-installing it on
They
the
would not be on
iPads that
ours.
were
Something for
being
us to look
ordered.
at, to,
So-
you know,
Thanks for
when we
letting
get
us
our
know.
Thank you.
devices, sure.
And speaking of that, when are we getting ours?
What are you looking at me for? I'm not giving you an iPad.
I didn't say you were.
Good.
When July 1st came around, I started working real closely with Alicia. She is our Apple rep for the SAU, and we're currently going through all of the budget lines for everything to make one large order to get it all shipped to us. So as soon as that can be finalized, because there were some numbers in there that I was not sure why they were a certain way, that will be ordered, and all your stuff will come in as well. It'll come in with the rest of the stuff for the school. It's easier to make one large order with them and separate it out the way it needs to be than it is to make multiple small orders. Plus, they give us price breaks when we order large number at once, because it's easier for them.
All right, grant assurances.
I do have one more item under SAU 64 that I'd like to bring up, if I may. We had last discussed, we had put in our budget this year for NWEA testing, and it was the original NWEA testing that we were going to do was aligned with Common Core. So I put a hold on moving forward with that to find out if they actually have the test based on the old Massachusetts standards prior to 2010, and they do have that as part of their software. So we wouldn't purchase the NWEA tests that are aligned to Common Core. We could purchase the NWEA tests that are aligned to the Massachusetts standards prior to 2010. So I just want to make sure it's okay with the board to move forward with what we'd approved in the budget for NWEA testing based on the Massachusetts standards prior to 2010. There wasn't any change in the cost.
Those are different than the 2013, correct?
The standards we're using are prior to 2010, because Massachusetts adopted the Common Core standards in 2010. So the tests that we would be providing would be based on the standards prior to 2010.
It just goes back, I don't know how many assessments, I mean, spend more time assessing the children than educating them.
It's gonna give us a baseline on where the kids are.
How many, you need 7 baseline?
Well, what other baseline
Just
are we
one.
having this year? There won't be another one because we're not doing smarter balance this year. Ames Web, when is that?
No, the reason why, and this goes back to our discussion during the budget preparation, is that we currently use Ames Web as a assessment that is administered to all students. That is a skills-based assessment. It's not a standards-based assessment. Our curriculum is being developed based on standards, so the NWEA assessments are based on standards. So that's a assessment that we currently don't have in the district, that we should have in the district, which gives us the baseline in the fall to see how students are progressing based on standards in the spring. So this is a way to really determine if our students are growing on an individual basis based on the standards that we're teaching in the classrooms, which we currently do not have.
But you just said in the fall.
You give it in the fall and the spring, because a student should demonstrate growth based on standards from the time they come into school to the time they leave in the spring or beginning of summer. And we don't have an assessment that shows that growth based on standards. Ames Web demonstrates growth with skills, but not the standards. So this is an important point of assessment. So then it gives you 3 points to determine student growth: classroom assessments, Ames Web as skills, as well as NWEA.
Sounds like you're taking the precaution to stay away from the Common Core and WEA and going in the right direction.
So I'll move forward with that. Just wanted to make sure the board was aware that we put it in the budget, put it on hold because they were affiliated, the test was affiliated with Common Core. However, we can get the test based on the Massachusetts standards prior to 2010, so I'll be moving forward with that.
Is it problematic to provide the board with a copy of each test so that we can see the difference?
It's a computer-based test, so you can't actually get a copy of the test, but you can get sample questions that come off of that test. And you could also there's quite a bit of information that comes to the teacher based on the assessment that can drive their instruction too. So it's a fantastic assessment for delivering instruction.
So is it possible that we get a sample test of each type, you know, the old math standards prior to 2010, and then what would be a normal test for most school districts nowadays? You know, geared. I'm just really curious to see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something we can ask for or hope for? Or?
I can run it by them.
Thank you.
NWEA, see what they have to offer.
You mean the Common Core?
I want to see one test that would be provided to our students and the generally accepted test anywhere else.
Common Core. The Common Core version of NEWA.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
I'd like to see the difference. Wouldn't you?
Hmm? Grant assurances.
Speak to it.
Okay.
So our last board meeting, I brought the assurances that I need to sign as a superintendent, and I wanted to bring those to the board for your review. I'm hoping the board had an opportunity to review those assurances between the last board meeting and now. So I need approval to sign those assurances.
I'll make
That's your decision.
I'll make a motion that we do not approve the assurances.
Based on the fact that I'll second your motion for discussion.
Okay?
You're basing that on the fact that all of these assurances are geared towards the idea of getting federal funding? Is that correct?
It's a part of it. We don't know. It was requested that we have a grant review workshop. There was an attempt, granted, there was an attempt, Unfortunately, I was the only one who could appear, and then it got pushed through at a regular board meeting. How can you approve something that we know nothing about? And that was the whole idea behind the grant review workshop that we have yet to receive yet.
But we were given copies of the requested assurances, right?
Correct, but what money is tied to that? I'd like to know specifically exactly how much money is tied to each one, what it's specifically going for. I don't have enough information to approve something that I don't think any of us know anything about. Michael?
So when we put together the information for the grant workshop and also the information that was updated to be put into the board packet under grants as an agenda item, because felt we'd have the whole board at a full board meeting, we included descriptions of all the grants as well as the current applications for the use of the monies. So information as provided as to what the grants can be used for, and all of the information on what we currently are utilizing the monies for. As I said, we have not received our allocations for our grant monies for this coming fiscal year, which would come to the board to see when we do put an application forward. However, regardless, we wouldn't receive those funds without those assurances.
I certainly don't have enough information. There's too much information here that we have not received an explanation for. I mean, I'd like to see
Can you ask
specifics.
why? I guess,
Okay, here's one grant for $4,385.16. Can you specifically? I mean, it gives you general. I'd like to see specific, but what the strings are attached to each single one.
what page are you on?
30. Could be. Actually, this might be over a couple of meetings that got all my grant stuff in there. We don't know what the strings are attached to it,
And see,
where the money's going.
I don't see strings, but I mean, I've read all of
course.
these grants, and
You're not gonna see the strings. They don't put the strings in these.
I've seen where the money is going. And although, I mean, it's pretty specific. Coaches, models, lessons to help gradual release the teachers, 14 days at 8:50. I mean, it tells you specifically what they're going for, and
Well,
are you talking about the federal?
I wouldn't call
ties?
that specific, but
You're saying there's more to it.
yes. There's a lot more to it that we don't know. And how can you assure, and then there's the other, I mean, the assurances that we received are all federal statutes. We're making these assurances to the New Hampshire DOE, who has absolutely zero authority over federal statutes. Why is that? Is this just another layer of government sticking their nose where it doesn't belong? The New Hampshire DOE has no authority over federal statutes, and those assurances that we receive are all federal statutes.
Well, we give assurances. The superintendent gives the assurances. We
Why-
receive
why-
money for the assurances.
Well, but those are federal statutes.
I'm not,
And but we're not giving it to the federal government. We're giving the assurances to the New Hampshire DOE, who has absolutely no authority. They're over federal statutes, which are are the insurances that we receive. They're all federal. The New Hampshire DOE has no authority over federal statutes. Why are we giving assurances to the New Hampshire DOE? We don't know what the strings are attached to. We've how many times have we discussed free and reduced lunch, which is tied to, Title I, you're gonna lose it. It's the strings attached that we don't have all the information to be making any approval on this.
So can you explain to me what information you're looking for so that you feel comfortable making a decision?
Well, Bob,
I know what I read, and just like Bonnie reading that bottom line there, there's no more to that. I mean, I couldn't say there was more to that. You know, if you told me if there were.
they're not giving us money out of the goodness of their heart. They're giving us money. They want something in return.
Educated children?
No, they want an assurance that the money that they're giving is going to be implemented the way they instruct.
And that's
Right.
what it should be.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, it shouldn't be, because that's
Unless-
how the federal government is telling you this is the way it's gonna be.
Which subverts your oath. When you're saying you'll remain sovereign, you don't look to the federal government. When you take an oath to protect your sovereignty, you don't look to the federal government to keep you sovereign. And we've taken that oath, and when you read that state constitution, you need to make a decision. You're either gonna believe in the oath that you've taken and apply it in every situation, or you're gonna put your hand out and ask the federal government for their intervention.
So Ralph, for what you read on those,
Mhm.
what would you add to those?
Well, if it wasn't federal money, I wouldn't have a problem with it. If it was state money, the people in the state of New Hampshire put into the DOE, and we had to comply with certain standards and regulations and requirements to get our piece of the pie back. It is our money going to the federal government, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the federal government doesn't really have a place in educating our children. We, Wakefield, and the state of New Hampshire may have a place in educating our children. But the federal government's broke, and all we're doing is borrowing, putting our federal government deeper in debt, putting our children deeper in debt, and it's not the spirit of my oath.
We just don't have enough information.
Well, you made it a little bit more confusing, I know that. I don't understand it now.
Then how can you approve it?
I'm understanding what I read,
Right, but there's a lot more to it that we
but I
don't.
don't know that. I don't know that from you or anything.
They're not giving us money to, just for the sole purpose of educating Wakefield children. They're giving us money, but they always want something in return. And I'm not sure what they want in return. And I have a problem with that.
Again, the statement that you're not getting enough information, I'm providing you, our administration is providing you the information that we have. And the information it sounds like you're referring to is what are some sort of hidden strings attached to the monies that I can't provide you that information. What I can provide you is the assurances. So when we go for the grant applications, I as a superintendent have to sign off that I'm assuring that I follow these rules and regulations, and I follow what these monies should be spent on.
With no other stipulations.
With no other stipulations. So all I do is I follow what I've given assurances for, as well as we have to apply for those monies, and those monies have to be put toward what that grant is intended to do. Take, for example, Title I, prime example. Students that don't qualify as a student with a disability and might not develop an IEP or a 504, but is deficient in their reading abilities or the mathematic abilities, they receive Title I funds. They receive Title I services that are paid out of Title I funds that I have to sign assurances for, that I'm providing a student that qualifies for Title I the specific support services necessary for them to be successful. Without signing those assurances, that student does not receive those additional services.
well, other than the $880,000 that we left over, if we weren't making the assurances, or if we weren't asking you to make the assurances, and we weren't receiving the federal monies, would this school district and the school and the kids, town go down the tubes?
Well, just as you'd seen in your, what I provided to you, that's a potential impact of $1.5 million. So if you don't want to receive federal funds, you need to have that discussion during your budget process, so that the community is aware of, these are the services we provide with federal dollars. If we do not receive those federal dollars, how are we going to continue providing those services? There's a cost to it, so you'd have to put it in your operating budget. If you want to not charge students to eat, okay, then you have to pay for that some way, so that has to come out of an operating budget. Free and reduced monies are tied to, they are federal monies. Therefore, if I don't sign the assurances, that student that lives with a family that can't afford to eat, now the family has to pick up that bill, or they don't eat. Or the town has to pick up that bill, or they don't eat.
The $1.5 million
But
in federal funding is less than twice as much as our monies that we could return to offset our taxes. I have an idea that here in Wakefield, we'd still raise and appropriate the funds to feed the kids without federal grants or guarantees or requirements.
And if you feel you want to go in that direction during the budget building process, then that's the direction we go down. But as for this year, we didn't have that discussion during the budget building process for fiscal year 15, so we're relying on these federal
How can we
funds.
actually think about it now?
But-
Going into
too
this?
late.
But wait a minute.
It's never too late.
It was
Say it's too
told,
late.
it was told, at least to me, that the 1.1 or $1.2 million in adequacy funding is not grant funding. But now it is?
You're referring to my comment that it wasn't like the other grants. However, it's considered, what's titled as an education grant. However, we don't apply for it like we do the other grants. These are monies that come to us out of adequacy.
In which we never
Correct.
received
It
that
comes to
information. That 1.1 we've never reved.
You have it here on what we gave to you.
We've got the half,
Yeah, the one-
I think the last figure I had was like a $558,000.
No, the last figure you received was $1,077,587.
Right here.
Fearing the federal government has.
But we never received the actual information for that though, right? I don't believe I haven't seen the what
Well,
I've
except
got
that
is
it's a
like
complex formula for $1,077,587. Doesn't include the National School Lunch Program.
Correct. Which is another 80+
Yeah.
thousand, over $95,000.
But that's not, I haven't seen the 1.1 million.
That's the formula that they take the number of kids that qualify for Title I and do the formula, and that comes up with the money. Is that right?
It's free and it's quite a complex formula that I cannot
am I
describe
right in
that
thinking
formula,
that?
but it takes your free and reduced numbers as part of the formula, and it takes your average daily membership as well as your formula. So it's enrollments as well as your percentage of students who receive free and reduced lunches, as well as many other variables within that formula.
So where is that 1.1 million going? Where is it all being spent? And what strings are attached to that 1.1 million?
Won't it be all right here in the grants that
I
everything that you
haven't
applied
seen-
for, except for the adequacy, everything is in here.
Correct,
You're-
right. But we haven't got, this is what I'm saying, we haven't seen this.
Your $1,077,000 comes in as revenue. We receive that from the state. So that comes in as revenue.
And
So it would be on your revenue reports.
And
Under
where-
education grant, which if you pull up the revenue reports that we had this evening, it has education grant in there, and we monitor those lines every month.
Okay,
So that's where you see it.
so where is the $1.1 million going in education grants? And what is the state asking in return?
Well, they're asking you to do some of the seminars and I mean, there's certain things that, aren't they asking for professional growth?
We don't sign assurances on our adequacy. That's something that the state gives us.
I didn't see any of those requests for assurances where somebody would gain, one group of teachers or somebody would gain some education in their, what they're supposed to teach the kids and stuff. There's,
That's part of the professional development, like in your Title IIA,
Right.
is strictly for professional development. So you have to use those monies for teachers to obtain professional development to improve instruction.
so it is in some of the grants.
But not your adequacy, not your education grant, the one we're talking about, the
Okay.
adequacy.
And earlier you said that some of the federal grants that we get don't need the assurances. They come without the assurances. That 1.2 that Steve was talking about, right?
Our state adequacy
Okay.
does not come with the assurances.
Okay. So
There's
Being-
no
being-
assurances for those.
You won't see those.
being.
Well, wait a minute, we won't see them?
You wait a minute.
I do not have to
Or
sign
there
them.
won't be any?
I do
Can
not
I
have to
finish my
sign them.
thought, please? I need to finish this thought before I forget it. I'm gonna hold on to it. Isn't there, my fear of the federal government is that they will give you the money anyway without the assurances because that's the noose. Not you, not this administration, but our society has already slipped our neck in this noose. And the more they keep feeding the beast, we're beholden to them. So whether you make the assurances or not, they're gonna keep funneling the money because they're gonna have maybe the next board that's elected or 10 years down the road, they're gonna say, we gave you all this money, now you're gonna do what we told you to do. Is there a chance that if we say, don't make the assurances, there's a chance that the money could still come from the federal government? Not that I think it should, but.
You won't receive those money.
So we
So
won't-
again, this is something that you can really have that discussion during the budget process. You really have to keep in mind, particularly IDEA, as it's a major that's a major grant that provides services for our students with disabilities.
If I can just speak to the assurances for IDEA, basically the assurances are that we are following the New Hampshire rules and regulations for students with disabilities.
But aren't they directed by the DOE or the federal government's Department of Education?
There are, IDEA is a federally IDEA are federal rules and regulations for students with disabilities.
And I don't think we're seeing those.
The assurances are in your packet
Well, the insurance.
for the IDEA. For all of these grants, you've had those.
To the comment that it's too late, at what point do we reverse the trend? If
Can
we.
we move the question?
Not at this point, I don't think.
Can we move the question? Move the vote?
So the motion on the floor on the table is.
There isn't one.
There is.
In a second.
And a second, to not approve these.
Oh, okay, mine, okay, I thought you were saying, right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion failed.
Fails on a tie vote?
Which is okay. That means you can make the assurances. But it's not
No.
okay with all
No,
of us.
I'm looking for an approval.
I want to make a motion to approve the general assurances for the fiscal year 2015.
We just voted on this,
Against it.
huh?
We did, it was a different motion.
There was a different motion. You voted against it. I'm voting for them.
No, you just made, it's the same motion.
Yeah, but it's what homework we did to read, to approve it. There was no other information that I got what you're saying, I didn't get any of that. So, how can you tell me to change how I feel or how I'm gonna vote versus what you're saying, the little add-ons, that they're gonna expect from us?
Well, they are.
Well, I don't know
We
that.
don't know that, and
They
we're not
don't
being
give-
told that.
you
Like,
don't-
our administration doesn't know that.
They don't give money away for nothing.
I think it's too,
They don't give money away for nothing.
and make a
I have a
motion.
question.
Normal.
What happens, Mr. Tursi, if you don't get this approved? Because I don't want this to impact the kids' educations at this point, because we didn't have enough forethought to look at this. I don't want somebody saying, my kid can't get Title I, my kid doesn't get Title I, but my kid can't get Title I because we didn't think far enough ahead. That's something we all need to think about as we sit here, and I'm not trying to say you guys need to vote one way or another. I agree with you. But I also agree with Bonnie that we can't let these children down because, oh no, at the last minute we're looking at this and going,
Again.
this isn't going to work for us. We need to make a decision on this that's going to work for the education of the students until we go before the budget committee next year and say this is what we want to do.
Based upon what someone else is telling you to do.
Based upon,
What
are
the
you going to
federal
put in the
government.
money? Are you going to put in the money to
Based
educate
upon
these
what the
children, Mr.
federal
Brown?
government, and we don't know what they're asking for in return.
And I understand that,
I'm
but
gonna-
it's been this way for a number of years. Are you going to come down here and educate the children if we don't get the money
So just
for
keep
it?
leaping off a bridge.
Wait until budget season,
It's
put it
too
in the
late,
budget
Steve.
and explain it. We can't just let the
too
children down.
No, I have a see.
I
It-
have a problem
It
with
was,
that.
it was too late for, contracts. Why is it all, things that are just not either explained or informed, and then it comes out, oh, no, that's too late.
It's not that
It's
way.
not in
It
the
is.
It could be our lack of experience. Did you
Right.
think of that? And we're not asking the
Oh,
right
no,
questions.
I think you just missed my point. I said information is being held.
I don't believe that. I think that
You don't
I,
believe that?
In these, they're
in
being
this
held?
in this instance, I don't believe that. I think that I think
Okay, then how about RSA
Okay, can I-
32.5 that clearly states that you have to have one or more public hearings? By law, it says you have, give me the date and time when the public hearings were made. Because we all want to follow the law around here, I believe.
We do want to follow the law, but we need to make a decision on this because it's
I'm
going
going to make a
the
motion
kids.
to approve the general assurances for fiscal year 2015.
We just did that and it failed.
No, that's
Allow her
not
to
what
get a
you
second
did.
if
I'll
she
second.
wants
No,
No, it's a totally different motion.
No, it's not.
to.
We have a second on the
It is.
floor.
No,
It
it's
is.
your motion, Steve, was, you made a motion
That
to
we do-
not accept the assurances. Ralph seconds the motion for discussion.
What?
She's
So,
making a motion to accept
accept
the
it.
assurances.
So, but
It's a different thing. There may
It's a
not be
different
an
thing.
abstention.
Move the
no,
question.
it's not the same thing.
Move the question.
No, I'm not moving anyone.
You have to move the question.
It's the same question that we just voted on, and it failed.
You have to move the question, Mr. Brown. There was a motion, there was a second, and there was a request to move the question, move the motion.
No, I don't think.
You do.
Bob.
I second.
You won't find a reason not to move the question.
It's the same, we took this vote already. We just
No,
took
we
this
did
vote.
not. You
We
said you
did.
do not
Same
want to
with
make a motion. You did not want to approve them. I want to approve them. That's why I
Right.
voted against your motion.
Okay, so then I can turn around and we can do the same vote a third, fourth, fifth. What's the stop of third, fourth, or fifth vote?
Because it didn't go through.
Once it's approved, it's
It's a
approved.
different motion, Steve.
No, I disagree.
Well, move the question and we'll find out the result. It'll be a different result.
It may not be.
It may not be, but I got an idea it will
Well,
be.
the first one failed anyways, right?
The first one failed because it was worded in a certain way. It was worded differently than this
No, wait a
motion
minute,
on the
wait a minute.
table.
That's not why it failed.
Vote.
But it was,
It-
it failed. It was worded
Okay, that's
differently
right,
than this
okay, I'm
correctly.
sorry, you're right. Okay, I'm just thinking, it moved, we voted not to, they, okay, right, all right.
My,
All right,
my,
so, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
That surprises me.
So,
I,
Why
I,
are you doing it? Because.
I can say that I am voting against this, not because the assurances aren't presented to us, not because,
But that's not
it's only because it's not protecting my
I
oath
want,
But
and
doesn't
our
that pass?
sovereignty.
I,
No,
no,
it's
it
a tie
can't.
vote.
It's a tie vote.
Tie vote.
So,
Failed
so,
on,
so it fails.
Yeah.
it failed.
so our kids are gonna suffer this year because
Because nobody.
we
has to
didn't
vote.
make a
Wait, wait, wait,
decision
wait,
at the
wait,
budgetary
wait, wait, wait,
season.
Don't go saying that, because the question is,
Well-
what's the time,
Wait.
what time is your deadline to sign these assurances?
July 1st.
Of 2015, I hope.
No,
What?
it's passed.
Great. Super.
Doesn't mean I can't sign them and turn them in.
It,
Not that
well,
late.
it just means you want the board's support.
That's exactly what it
That's
means,
exactly
Mr.
what it
Fogg.
means.
Because I said that I would bring it to the board
And-
Oh,
for your
Yeah.
approval
And we
before I
need
sign
you to
them.
do that, and we do
Wait a
appreciate
minute,
that.
Thank you, sir.
Did I just hear you say that you can assign, you can sign them anyway?
No,
he
sir,
didn't say
those
that.
words did not
He
come
did
out of
not
my
say
mouth.
Just not, just,
No, he didn't say
I
that.
didn't say that.
I said I could sign them and turn them in late if I get the board's approval.
late,
Right.
late was the key word there?
They're already late,
Yes,
Yes,
they
they are.
and now they're not gonna happen because the vote failed. So where does that put our children now?
What I mean, can anybody dream up a different motion?
I was just going to throw that out there for you.
There is a solution. Can you very quickly have a grant review workshop, straighten out all the questions?
We need more time than that.
I mean,
Or-
it could be done.
Well, we need to have a federal agent in here to tell Mr. Brown what secret strings are attached, because none of us know the secret strings.
Yes, ma'am.
So instead, we're gonna have, unless the president's gonna come and tell us what he's got up his sleeve for the next 15 years,
Well-
how are we supposed to know?
It's way beyond
Because what rabbit's gonna be
Wait.
pulled out of the hat today?
Guys, hey, everybody stop. I make a motion that we sign these assurances and turn them in with the stipulation that at budget time, we take a look at all these different grants and go to the townspeople and say, this is what we want to do.
Or
Why-
don't want.
Why hasn't
Because
it
that
been done?
way, we educate our children as we need to do, and we move forward and look at all the options.
But why wasn't this brought up
I
at
don't know.
budget time?
I don't know.
There's an RSA that clearly says.
Maybe it hasn't been an issue
That's,
in the
it's
past.
probably never been an issue in
And
the
it-
past.
well,
and I-
apparently-
Maybe you found something that no one else has
I'll
ever found.
second Norman's motion for
Apparently
discussion.
it is because it's an RSA.
Okay, first and second here.
And what's the motion?
To approve
Again?
the assurances.
Approve the
as-
assurances with the stipulation that at budget time, we take a look at all the grants and we put it at the to the taxpayers and say, this is what we need, so we don't have to take all this federal money.
With one or more public hearings?
We can have 47 public hearings,
Okay.
but we put it
The
forward.
RSA only calls for one or more.
All right, so we'll just do one or more.
All right.
That's my motion.
And a
Do I have a
second.
second?
You did get a second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion prevails 3-2.
Please send them in.
Well, he's just got the directive.
Thank you.
Wow.
The fact remains.
Go against it, do that.
Huh?
You seconded,
Sure.
you seconded
I seconded it for
a
discussion.
For discussion.
He flipped.
I didn't flip.
Flip.
I
Don't
am.
say that.
You didn't flip.
It's okay to not agree.
I don't believe we need federal monies to operate our school.
I understand that, but you
That's
can't say
something
that
we
in
should look at
July.
now then.
That's what I'm concerned about.
The RSA calls for it,
But
but
if we don't-
apparently we don't
But if
follow
we
that
don't say
either.
we
Okay.
need to put this into the budget, it's not gonna get done, we're gonna
Just
come
the
back to
fact.
the table next July and Steve's gonna go, no way, Jose. And we discussed it last year.
Fun.
That's the
That's why I'm
political
bringing the
process.
information now.
And thank you for
Bus,
bringing us.
Forward.
bus bids.
Even the little dog.
So may I, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
So the last meeting, we had some bus bids, and there were questions around which bus was being replaced, and we had answered those questions, and just wondering if the recommendation was to go with the,
$811.
excuse me?
$811.
No, that was for the purchase of the van.
Oh,
We're selling an old.
Look at the van.
So the bids that came in was Northern New England Sales at $84,999, WC Cressley at $82,000, Anderson Bluebird at $82,147, and the recommendation was to go with the Cressy bid.
And we have 2 spares. Although that may knock it down to 1 spare, but,
You have more than 2 spares, don't
well, 2, I'm talking 77. We have 2 spare 77 passenger and 2 spare, what is it, 14 passenger, I think? 14 the smaller bus, we have 2 large and 2 small spares. So I guess that would leave us with 1 spare large. The other problem I see with that is number one, I would want a Cummins motor purchased. Are there any other things that we should be thinking about, like extended warranty?
Isn't it a lease?
Yeah, you don't,
But I would definitely want the Cummins motor.
wasn't that in the bid? Weren't they all Cummins motors for the
No,
bid?
no, they were not. They were not. We have a number of Mercedes motors, and they're very problematic. And they use a lot more oil, so I would like to specify that we purchase, if we are going to purchase the bus, that we specify that we want a Cummins motor.
That may affect the bid,
Correct.
Was that in the,
This
was
was-
that in the RFP that it had to be a Cummins motor?
I believe.
This was the same thing last year. I asked Mr. Eldridge. Mr. Eldridge said it wasn't a problem. So,
Yeah, I thought he said we could pick and choose what we wanted.
but,
So you can approve the bid as long as it has a Cummins motor in it.
Right.
Right.
do you think we need another one?
another bus.
Yes. I believe that would leave us with 1 77 passenger spare bus.
How do you do that if we have another bad winter like we had last year and we had buses breaking down left and right? We need, we need another one to assure that we have enough on hand. If not, we're gonna be renting them or borrowing.
Borrowing from Milton.
But, well, we were actually loaning our buses out.
Well, isn't that kind of how they reciprocate, like,
Free of charge. We were told that to rent a bus is $500 a day, but yet we were loaning our buses out to other towns free of charge.
well, doesn't that mean that we tell Mr.
Yeah, that's been taken care of, but that's my point. I mean,
Well, if it's been taken care of, why are you bringing it up again?
because this is the whole part of the conversation, whether we need, how many spare buses we need. We do, and there have been years that they have put off the purchase of a bus. I mean, you have 4 spare buses, right? That's 80, let's use round numbers, 80,000. 2 of those, that's 160. The 14 passengers are about 45 apiece, so that's 90. So that's $250,000.
So I guess once again, I'm gonna ask you, why are you doing this now rather than at budget season?
This is the beginning of the year and we're spending like crazy.
Right, and I think this has been, this isn't new, this has been going right along. Whether we need, how many spare buses we need. And do we need to purchase a bus every single year, or could one year, you let that go.
They seem to be able to survive in Milton without buying new buses every year.
Purchased the bus. Milton purchased the bus.
One in the last, what?
It's on similar rotation schedule as we have here.
But they're still driving buses that are 20 years old down there.
But we have to buy one or two every year. And I think it's normally we buy two every year.
So we just cut it in half.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Someone wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we purchase a bus with a Cummins motor.
With that stipulation, I'll second that motion.
From,
Which,
from Cress,
from Cressy?
Cressy,
Cressy.
$82,000.
That's the lowest, correct?
Yep. With the Cummins motor.
You do gotta keep in mind, Steve, that the voters, they ended up voting on this budget. So, back in March, they approved the spending. I don't say that it's right, I'm not saying I voted for it. I'm saying the voters, the majority of voters in town did.
Just,
Do we have a second?
Yes.
No.
Ralph did.
I did vote for it?
Oh, we did.
As
Oh,
long as
yeah.
it has a coming motor.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, 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 aye.
Policy, BGB, second reading.
Actually, we've already had a second reading on that, on 5/21/14. I did the first, Norma did the second, and it was voted on.
For the first reading, came from the policy subcommittee, and then it came to the full board for first reading, but it didn't come back for the second reading.
Okay.
It's here now for the second reading.
All right.
You gonna read it out loud for us, Bonnie?
No, you've already
No,
read
you
it
are.
twice.
I can't even see it, how am I supposed to read it?
I make a motion to approve BGB.
Second. For discussion?
Discussion.
Motion second, discussion?
No.
No.
I'm just kidding.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Committee reports. I think I gave the facilities earlier. Anybody else got anything?
We have cafe services is coming later.
The SAU withdrawal committee, that, there's no more talk about that until the voters see the warrant article in March, is that right?
No, we have a meeting on that next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Michael.
I just want to make sure that the public knows that's watching that the SAU withdrawal committee is not meeting next Tuesday.
Correct.
The board
It's
is
the board
meeting
is
to
meeting.
discuss SAU withdrawal.
I'm sorry. Leave it to me to mess it up.
I just want to make sure people are
That's
aware
Tuesday,
that the
right?
committee is not meeting.
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
correct.
Right here?
Yes,
5:30?
I believe it's 5:30.
5:30.
Okay, public comment. So,
Grants?
Jump right in.
It's silly. I don't want to start any trouble. But do you have the expenditures, the actual amount of money, how it was spent from the grants? What it was spent on, how it was spent? Do you have the expense report on how grants were spent, how the money was?
Yeah.
You have that? So you know exactly how much they spent on food or trips or?
I don't know if it's broken down that way. I know that Andrew gave me one of those about 6 months ago.
Okay. 'Cause when you and I were on the board, Bonnie, we had a grant review, and we looked at, I think we went down to SAU and looked at
Mhm.
some of the, we were surprised at how much was spent on food and trips, and I think it was a zoo ticket, and lunch with a beer, and $400 on car rental, and that kind of thing.
I do remember that, and I do remember that. I do remember that.
Okay.
Is your
Nope, it was much, it was probably about 10, 8 years ago, yeah.
Are you going to have a grant review?
I've requested one, and I even requested one, I sent out an email, what was it, a week or two ago? Still haven't heard anything about a grant review workshop.
There is a way to get some of this information. Ed, me, Steve, and Melissa Siemens are on the grant review committee for the county. And we're going to delve very deeply into some of these grants.
Well, I also started one in Brookfield. The very positive thing is there's so many grants and there's so many parts of it that, and their agreements, their contracts, and nobody's reading them. So to approach this in a positive way, in Brookfield, we're there to assist the elected officials to make sure that they have a comprehensive breakdown or report showing what RSAs are asking for public hearings, what RSAs is allowing them to accept the grants, just a breakdown, a report. So when they're signing it, they know what they're signing. That way there's no question. It's good your question is. In the past, we never had so many grants.
Is this what you're calling as an explanation?
No, I get a better breakdown than that.
Because, I mean, that doesn't tell you anything. Sorry, it's not enough information.
You'll see in the activities that were provided for the use of the monies, the explanation of how those monies are spent. It's all part of that information that was provided.
Part of it's in the assurances.
But the actual specifics around what those monies are being spent on are within the, what's known as the activities in each one of those grants that's been provided to the board twice.
Except for the educational grants.
Correct, because we do not apply for that grant. The adequacy you're referring to.
But the idea behind this is the public hearing should be within that workshop so the public knows what all those assurances are, that they know what all those stipulations are. What happens if the public does not want that being done? Now, and this is a problem throughout the state, probably throughout the country, that no one is reviewing all of this information. I mean, there is a planning grant, because I'm Brookfield's representative on the Stratford Regional Planning Commission, and there was a grant that was this thick in a binder coming from EPA, DOT, and EPA.
EPA twice.
I'm sorry, EPA, DOT, and HUD. I'm sorry, HUD. It was so big, there was no way that any of the selectmen were able to read that. But when some people started looking into the grant, there's a lot of questionable things in there, and a lot of people backed out of it. So it's just important to do it. Plus, the law is going to stipulate, if it doesn't already, it's going to stipulate that that public hearing has to, in detail, show everything. Not just have a board doing it, it should be publicly noted.
They don't do public hearings.
In a positive sense that it has to happen. Because historically, 50 years ago, what, you got maybe one grant, some trust fund, and now almost half of the budget is coming from who knows where. That can't be good. I mean, it's getting too big. So it has to be reviewed on a positive sense.
Thank you. Anybody else in public comment?
Was the teachers' room ever spruced up?
Was what?
Teachers' room? No, it never was done.
Those changes were never made.
No, we're tearing it right out of there anyway.
That goes way back though, right?
It does go back about 3 or 4 years, and then I'd asked your board when you came on board, and I thought it was gonna get done, but I didn't.
All right, can I have a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A 2, B, C, and I, nominations, personnel, legal matters, and superintendent evaluation. And security, correct. Security's I.
Is what?
I.
I'll make that motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A, Part 3, 2, B, C, and I.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Fog eye.
Brown, yes.
Sierra, aye.
Well,
Joy, aye.
Thank you for coming.